What's the best bow in Tears of the Kingdom? Like, really, do you know what it is? Well, you might have an idea, but what's the actual best one? Well, that's what I plan to figure out by using an intensely scientific method that certainly is not scuffed in any way, shape, or form. And by the end of this video, we will know for all certainty what the best bow is. Now, to find this out, we have to do a bit of math, but don't worry, it's really simple, maybe. First, we take the base damage stat, and since we're going to be using the Forest Dweller's bow, it's going to be 15, and then multiply it by 2 because it shoots 3 arrows. But why not just multiply it by 3? Well, most of the time, not all of the arrows will hit anyways, so it's not exactly the same as having a 3 times damage boost. But we aren't done yet, as we still have to add the durability, which for this bow is going to be 35. So just multiply it by our current stat, right? Well, no, because I want to make this unnecessarily complicated. So we're going to have to take into account which one is more useful, durability or raw attack power. Most people would agree with me that durability is more important, as what's the point of good damage if your bow breaks and you can't even use it? So that's why we're going to take the durability stat and multiply it by 1.2. So now we take our 30 and our 42 and multiply them together to get a score of 1260. Seems pretty high, right? Well, we aren't quite done yet, as some bows, including the Forest Dweller's bow, have a hidden bonus effect that makes them even better. And the Forest Dweller's bow has a bonus of a 1.6 times faster draw time. So, do we multiply our current score by 1.6? Well, you should know by now that it's never that simple. So, it first needs to be weighed, and then we can multiply our current score of 1260 by 1.3 to get a final score of approximately 1638. Seems like a whole lot of points, right? Well, I guess we'll see how it stacks up against the 30 other bows as we start our journey into your doodoo. But first, a quick thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Factor. Factor is a meal delivery service that brings fresh, never frozen meals straight to your doorstep. It takes the stress out of meal prep, so you don't have to worry about cooking any more W's food. Plus, no more scrambling to gather ingredients, prepping, cooking, or best of all in my opinion, cleaning up. And with all of our ever-changing schedules, whether it's starting a new project, picking up a new hobby, or the return of Ganondorf, Factor has you covered. Their flexible plans let you reschedule deliveries, adjust weekly meals from 4 to 18 per week, or pause when needed, with 35 plus meals to choose from, including options like keto, calorie smart, and vegan plus veggie. Just like all of the bows, you have a ton of different options to choose from. I personally love Factor because it helps me meet my nutrition goals while saving time. Instead of grabbing something quick like cereal or another easy to prep option, I can enjoy a full, satisfying meal that's ready in just 2 minutes. So if you'd like to check it out, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50little to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50little at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. You all know how this goes already. Tier doodoo has the worst possible bows in it, and the worst bow in the entire game is the Boko bow. Wow, humongous shocker. I mean, what did you expect from a bow that has 4 damage and 16 durability? It's bound to get last place, and a final score of 77, cementing its place in dead last, but not too far off from the wooden bow and the old wooden bow. Just like as with the shields, both the old wooden and the wooden versions are the exact same as each other stat-wise, giving them both one of the lowest bow scores of 96. And yes, I'm going to be calling the final score count the bow score. Anyways, the wooden bow has 7 pickup locations, whereas the old wooden bow can be found in 13 different locations, making it technically better. Thankfully, from here on out, no bows score the same as each other, so we don't have to use the pickups as a tiebreaker. Or is there? The next worst is the construct bow. It has a damage of 5 and a durability of 18, giving it a final bow score of 108, barely beating out the wooden bows and really just taking up a spot that Nintendo maybe could have used for a much better bow, like the Traveler's bow. Just kidding, no one really cares about this thing either. All of these early game bows, believe it or not, are really only good in the early game. I know, shocking, right? The Traveler's bow has a final bow score of 132, and so it really just deserves a spot in the worst tier. Starting up C tier is the amazing and exciting Spiked Boko bow. Surprisingly enough, all of the Bokoblin weapons kinda suck, and the Spiked Boko bow has a damage of 12 and a durability of 20. Fun fact, it's actually the most common bow in the entire game, having a staggering 652 pickup locations, which is almost as much as all of the other bows on this list combined, and even more than its final bow score. Next up in C tier, we have the Swallow bow. This colorful bow has a damage stat of 8 and a durability of 30. It's also the first bow on this list to have a status effect. This one being the ability to draw 1.2 times faster than normal, which doesn't really make that much of a difference when in game or on the tier list, and it has a final bow score of 317. Strong Construct Bow. Everyone loves the Strong Construct Bow. It does 11 damage and has 26 durability. Super cool and epic. It's also really easy to find. What's not to love about the Strong Construct Bow? And now, finally making an appearance, we have the Lizophils and their base level Lizzle Bow. Unlike the Lizzle Shield, the Lizzle Bows are extremely common and have decent stats across the entire lineup, except for the first one, as the base level Lizzle Bow only does 14 damage and has a whole 25 durability, giving it a final bow score of 420. Now the first bow to shoot multiple arrows at once, the Duplex Bow. I know, some people are gonna say, actually the Duplex Bow shoots arrows in succession, not at once, so it's actually not. And to that I say, maybe. The Duplex Bow has a final bow score of 454 and actually has some really good utility uses as its arrows are shot one after the other. Since we're in C tier, next up is the Fenric Bow. It does a whopping 10 damage, but stay with me here. It has 45 durability, and I think that's pretty awesome as it's the highest we've seen so far, and by quite a large margin at that. The Fenric Bow also has the bonus of allowing you to zoom in while shooting, but I have absolutely no clue at all on how to rank this trait, so I'm not going to, and if you have any ideas or need to yell at me about how good it actually is, let me know in the comments. And at the top of C tier is the better version of the Traveler's Bow, the Soldier's Bow, weighing in at a bow score of 604. For some reason, it seems that the Hylians have the largest and best collection of bows, starting with the Travelers, moving up to Soldiers, then Knights, and finally ending at Royal. And the Royal Guards Bow is the weird emo spin-off that most people don't really use, unlike the bows in B tier, which pretty much everyone loves. Well, at least most of them. Kicking it off with a classic, we have the Lionel Bow. This is the first official bow to shoot multiple arrows at once, and these triple shot bows are insanely good when used with the right fuse, even if they have a lower attack value, like 15 for the Lionel Bow. It also has the durability of 30. Also, check out the name of this plateau. And is probably the first bow on this list that most people will continue to use even into the late game. But I'm not too sure about the Falcon Bow, as it has a damage stat of 14 and a durability of 35, which seems as though it should be rated a lot lower. And you know what, it probably should. But this highly scientific system is already scuffed enough, so I don't want to mess it up even further with my own arguably more scuffed input. But hey, at least this bow has a 1.4 times faster draw time, and that definitely makes up for the lack of damage. And finally, putting an end to the horrible run of the Bokoblins, the Dragonbone Boko Bow, with a final bow score of 864. It's kinda sad that the Bokoblins meet their fate in B tier, sandwiched between the Falcon Bow and the Zora Bow, which is one of the best looking bows in the game for sure. Anyways, this bow has a damage of 20 and a durability of 40, and that's about it. But hey, at least it looks pretty cool. Next up is the Mighty Construct Bow. While not as popular among the peoples as the Strong Construct Bow, it still makes a pretty good pick for mid to early late game, as it has 24 damage and 34 durability. And with that, the Constructs meet their fate with the Bokoblins in B tier. Or do they? Well, one enemy gang that surely isn't going to end their run yet are the Lizophils and their strengthened Lizzle Bow. It clocks in at 25 damage and 35 durability, making it solid and reliable, with the first bow to score past 1,000, coming in at 1050. You know what else scores past 1,000? The Gerudo Bow. It has a final bow score of 1,200 because of its 25 damage and 40 durability. I want you to visualize the perfect A tier bow. Which bow embodies A tier the best? Well, if you said Royal Bow, you'd be wrong. It's the Dusk Bow. 5 of you probably got that right. This bow isn't as cool as it used to be, but it still looks really nice, and it has a bow score of 1440, and shoots arrows pretty straight, but not the straightest. That's saved for the Knight's Bow. Wait, no, it's definitely not. Whatever. The Knight's Bow has a damage stat of 26 and a durability of 48, giving it the final bow score of 1498. And now, we're finally reunited with the Forest Dweller's Bow. But there's not much for me to say, as I kind of broke it all down already. Next is the Royal Guards Bow, and everyone knows how these weapons work. It shows a cool shiny damage stat, but has absolutely horrible durability. This bow does actually have 2 bonus stats. It has a faster draw speed and a faster reload time, which I think should be counted as the same, but I guess it isn't. Now, finally closing out A tier is the Mighty Lionel Bow. 20 damage with a triple shot and 35 durability. This bow certainly deserves its spot on the top of A tier with an impressive 1680 bow score to defend its position. Furthermore, as we venture up the perilous tiers of tiers, we've come upon S tier, where the most elite and distinguished bows reside. watching over all of the lowly and pitiful A, B, C, and doodoo bows. Surprisingly enough, the steel lizzle bow is among the distinguished bows. I thought that the Lizophils weren't going to make it this far, but it really does kind of make sense as you always see them using bows, and that translates to the quality of their best one, with a final score of 2160. Well, you know how I said that we wouldn't have to use a tiebreaker later in the video? I kind of lied, because the Zonite bow also has the exact same score as the steel lizzle bow. I also said that the constructs aren't going to make an appearance, but I digress. The Zonite bow does 6 less damage and has the same durability, but has an energy up, shoot further bonus. And I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot how I ranked this bonus, but I guess it was enough for it to tie with the steel lizzle bow. And even though the steel lizzle bow can be found in more locations, I'm going to place the Zonite one higher because I like it more. A bow that certainly doesn't have a score of 2160 is the Royal Bow, another very reliable and widely used bow. I will never pass up an opportunity to pick one of these bows up, as they're basically the best bow all around. This is actually the best single shot bow in the entire game, with 38 damage and an impressive 60 durability. Next up is the Demon King's bow. I know I said that the Royal Bow is the best single shot bow in the game, but the Demon King's bow is actually a bit better. But you do have to keep in mind that this is only true if you have the maximum amount of hearts. And it's also harder for you to get as you have to fight the Gloom Hands, but it does do 60 damage and has a pretty good durability of 42. Now, coming in at third place is a fan favorite, the Savage Lionel Bow. It does 32 damage with a triple multi-shot and a durability of 45. Its amazing damage output combined with its multi-shot fuse capabilities make it by far one of the, if not arguably the best bow in the game, and it comes in at a final bow score of 3456. Second place goes to the Great Eagle Bow. It deals a bit less damage than the Savage Lionel Bow at 28, but has an impressive durability of 60 as well as multi-shot capabilities and the bonus of a 1.8 times faster draw speed, making this bow insanely good for non-bullet time combat. It has a final bow score of 5645, blowing everything else out of the water by a massive long shot. Well, besides the Savage Lionel Bow, 5-shot variant. While really rare to pick up and technically already ranked, 5-shot Lionel Bow actually beats out the massive score of the Great Eagle Bow by only 57 points, at 5702. An insanely small difference, but the utility of a 5-shot bow cannot be ignored when paired with fuses like key size. It's an amazing bow, especially for bullet time. But if you're planning on firing from the ground, then you should stick with the Great Eagle Bow for that faster draw time. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Please consider subscribing if you think I earned it, and check out this video where I ranked all the shields, cause I gotta rank them all.